My college roommate was infatuated with my father and threatened to be my father's mistress. I kindly advised her, "My dad is old and he doesn't take baths." My roommate didn't care at all. Older men are more caring. "I just like that mature man smell on him. Do you understand?" I said, "My dad is a super male. He can punch a child to death." My roommate loved him even more. "He is so manly. How happy it must be to be his woman." In order to seduce my dad, she had plastic surgery to look like my deceased mother and climbed into my dad's bed. But she didn't know that my mother was killed by my dad. "One is the person who sent you to school from the Arya family, your brother?" Luna looked at my dad's departing back, her eyes firmly fixed on him. I had an expressionless face. But inside I was shocked. I had actually been reborn back to 2 years ago. Today is the first day of freshman year. My dad sent me to the dormitory. Since it's a 2-person dormitory, Luna and I had chatted online in advance, so we would be relatively familiar. Luna was infatuated with my dad just by seeing him once. She pretended to be my good friend. When I was unprepared, she inquired about my dad from many aspects. I sincerely regarded her as a close friend, but she actually wanted to be my little mom. In order to seduce my dad, she even had plastic surgery to look like my deceased mother and climbed into my dad's bed. I kindly advised her that my dad was not a good person. "He is old and doesn't take baths." Luna didn't care. Older men are more caring. "I just like that manly smell on him." What do you know? My dad is a super male. He may go crazy at any time. Once when he was emotional, he punched a child on the side of the road and broke the child's eyeball. If it weren't for my grandpa who built a huge family business for him and cleaned up his mess, he would still be singing Iron Window Tears in prison. But when Luna heard this, she loved him even more. "He is so manly. How happy it must be to be his woman." My repeated obstructions successfully angered Luna. On my 22nd birthday, she tricked me into an empty alley under the guise of my boyfriend's name. I was tortured to death by more than 10 hooligans. Before I died, my body was bent at a 90-degree angle. All my bones were broken, and I died in extreme pain. Thinking of those inhumane tortures before death, I gritted my back molars tightly. Almost without thinking, I slapped Luna hard on the face. The force was so great that my arm went numb. But this was completely not enough to erase the hatred in my heart. Luna covered her face and screamed loudly. "Arya, why did you hit me?" I blinked and forced a smile. "Sorry. I saw a mosquito on your face." As I said that, I extended my palm. A touch of bright red was clearly visible. I took out a wet wipe and wiped it hard before answering her. "Oh, that's my dad." Staring at her eyes, I paused and then said again, "My mom passed away a few years ago. Now he is single. In my previous life, until I died, my dad had never married her. As a reward, of course I had to fulfill her wish well. Luna insisted on marrying my dad, only because she was eyeing my family's property and wanted to become a phoenix. Luna, with a slap mark on her face, had countless thoughts. When she heard that my dad was single, her eyes lit up. Immediately, she forgot the anger of the slap I gave her just now. She familiarly took my arm again, pretending nothing had happened. That's your dad. He looks so young." I endured the discomfort and unobtrusively distanced myself from her. "Well, he had me when he was 20. Now he is only 40. At the beginning, relying on his family's wealth, he forcibly married my mom. When I was a child, I didn't understand why my mom always looked out of the window with a worried look. Later, when I grew up, I understood. I wanted to take my mom away from that cage, but she was gone. Luna pestered me and insisted on hearing the love story between my parents. I stared at her with a half smile. "You seem to be very interested in my dad?" She turned her head guiltily and explained haltingly. No, I just think that your dad, at first glance, is a lovesick man." And then she murmured in a low voice, He must be very lonely all these years. Right? I laughed. Lonely? Don't say that. My mom is gone now. Even when my mom was still alive, there were never a shortage of women around him. But I certainly won't tell her. I pretended to be bitter. Yes. As a daughter, I sincerely hope that my dad can have someone to rely on. Luna's eyes lit up. Arya family. Do you really think so? I nodded. Her eyes shifted. She said she wanted to see a photo of my mom, and the ambition in her eyes was almost overflowing. So impatient to be my little mom? I showed her the screensaver of my phone. It was the only photo of me and my mom. When she leaned over, I exclaimed, Luna, your eyebrows and eyes are a bit like my mom's. Her eyes fell on the screen and visibly brightened. After she finished looking, I deliberately put my phone on the table and pretended to go to the bathroom. When I came back again and saw that the phone on the table had moved a bit, I understood. She probably took a photo of my mom secretly. I was just afraid that she wouldn't take it. I deliberately placed the luxury bags in my suitcase casually in front of her again. Arya family. Are these bags very expensive? She sat on the chair and finally couldn't help asking. In my previous life, she also asked me this. And for the friendship of 3 years in college, I waved my hand and let her choose freely. It's okay. It's just the cost of a meal. I deliberately exaggerated to stimulate Luna. She couldn't sit still immediately. Oh, one meal? Luna could live in a 2-person dormitory. Her family was not extremely wealthy, but she was definitely not treated badly. She hinted at me in her words, your dad is so good to you. Unlike me, I have nothing. But if I'm not mistaken, what she was wearing was not some high-end luxury brand. But they were all famous brands. Isn't this enough? For suddenly I also understood that some people will never be satisfied with the status quo. I didn't answer and just sorted out my luggage on my own. She could only be anxious in her heart when she saw it. In the next few days, I deliberately made several phone calls with my dad in front of her, all of which were showing off wealth. Dad, why did you send me money again? I already have enough money to spend. I still have several million in my card. I'm going to school, not buying the school. I have received the new bag. Thank you, Dad. Luna had also seen me spending money lavishly. For this reason, she couldn't help but criticize me. Arya family. It's not easy for your dad to make money. You are spending too much. I didn't care and showed off my wealth even more. I smeared the black bandage mask on my feet as if it were free. During these days of military training, my feet were rubbed red. I even used La Mer's body lotion. After the military training ended, Luna finally managed to add my dad's contact information. As for how she added it, thanks to me, I deliberately forgot to lock my phone screen several times, which gave her the opportunity. She stared at her phone in a daze every day. As long as there was a message tone, even in the middle of the night, she could be awake and from her bed. She was a living spring-thinking girl. Luna was not simple either. Soon she was chatting heatedly with my dad. Several times, I accidentally glanced at her chat interface. Uncle? The Arya family also ate obediently today. She took a photo of me eating, but she carefully revealed her long black silk legs. As for my dad, he never refuses anyone who comes. Luna became closer and closer to my dad. In front of me, she unconsciously put on an elder's airs. Arya family, don't you feel bad spending your dad's money like this? You are already in your 20s, and will get married sooner or later. What will your future husband think of you if you do this? We are all still students. If you are so maverick, no one will play with you at school. In section 5, she spoke righteously. I just glanced at her lazily. If you knew how rich my family is, you would envy my good fortune. Luna's hand behind her back unconsciously clenched into a fist. Really? She almost said this through gritted teeth. Luna didn't know what she was thinking, and I didn't pay attention to her either. Until when going to class, She suddenly knelt in front of me in front of everyone. Arya family. Since you are so rich, can you lend me 200,000? Although it was said to be borrowing money, she didn't look like she was begging at all. I have seen people robbing money, but it's really the first time I've seen someone kneeling to rob money. No. I refused immediately. In my previous life, she also borrowed money from me. I thought that 200,000 was not much, so I lent it to her. But who would have thought that in a blink of an eye, she had plastic surgery to look like my mom? Seeing me refuse, Luna's face was ugly. Why are you so stingy? It's just 200,000. I'm not going to not pay you back. There was a bit of anger in her tone, but she didn't dare to directly tear up with me. After all, Luna's ascension has not been successful yet, and she is not willing to directly offend me. Oh. And then? She also realized this and her tone softened a bit. Arya family. I'm sorry. I was a bit too impulsive in speaking. Actually, my mom is sick. The surgery fee needs 200,000. I was just a bit anxious. Seeing her put on a pitiful look, I sneered in my heart. It was impossible to lend her money. The classmates beside me couldn't stand it either and spoke up for Luna. That's right. Arya, aren't you very rich? We are all classmates anyway. Don't be so cold-blooded. It's only 200,000. Any bag of yours is worth more than this price. This is a human life. Luna bit her lip, and there was a hint of smug cunning in her eyes. One could imagine with one's toes that she wanted to use public opinion and morality to blackmail me. I glanced at the people who were speaking and pointed at one of them and said, "You are very right. Then why don't you lend it? Don't you have it?" The person I pointed at was stunned and blurted out, "If I had it, I would definitely lend it." I understood. I took out a piece of paper and a pen from the drawer. Okay. Then write an IOU and help her borrow 200,000. How about it? People are like this. For things that have nothing to do with them, they can always accuse others condescending. Once their own interests are involved, they turn their faces and deny people. It has nothing to do with me. The person I pointed at blushed and left in a hurry after throwing down a sentence. The other people watching were afraid of being pointed at by me and turned around and left one after another. Seeing that I easily drove people away, Luna was anxious. She pulled at my trouser leg and begged, "Arya family, my mom is really sick. I can write an IOU and promise to pay you back." There were still accusing glances on me, as if it was a heinous thing for me to refuse her. If it were someone else, I would lend the money if I lent it. "Auntie, Luna said you are sick. Is it true?" I suddenly said while holding a phone that was on a call. Luna was stunned, seeing that I had dialed a call at some point, and her line of sight could clearly see that the phone number was her mom's. I didn't. Before Auntie could finish speaking, Luna hurriedly reached out to snatch it and hung up the phone directly. Then she got up from the ground. A bit of panic could still be seen. I was puzzled. "Auntie is sick." I just greeted Auntie. "Why do you seem so anxious? If you don't lend it, then don't lend it. Who cares?" She gritted her teeth and glared at me hard. Luna was really guilty. Auntie didn't finish speaking just now, but everyone heard it. The strong female voice didn't sound like a weak patient about to have surgery at all. As so she was lying to get money. The lie was exposed in public. Luna was even angrier. Her plan failed and she couldn't borrow money from me. I was even more curious. What would she do? In section 6, Luna seemed really anxious. I heard that she borrowed money from her classmates, but everyone knew she was lying, and no one was willing to lend it to her. In the end, she borrowed money from a certain software. In the next month, she asked for leave from school and never came back. And I was even more happy. I wished she would never come back. Until Alex appeared in front of me again. The appearance was exactly the same as in the previous life. On the basketball court, a thoughtless basketball flew straight at me. Alex played the hero to save the beauty and stood in front of me. In my previous life, I fell in love with Alex at first sight. That's exactly how it was. Classmate, are you okay? The deep and hoarse voice rang in my ear and pulled me back from my memories. What came into view was that familiar face and the joking and laughing sounds beside my ears. For some reason, there was no more that heart-pounding feeling. The time I met Alex in this life was half a year earlier than in my previous life. But is it really such a coincidence? Basketball court. Heroes saving beauty. Few girls can resist such an encounter. My peripheral vision looked at everything around. Even those boys who were making noise were the same as in my previous life. They were all Alex's roommates. But looking at the worry in Alex's eyes, it didn't seem fake. Until I subconsciously pushed Alex away. The flash of annoyance in his eyes was caught by me. Soon, he returned to that warm big boy look again. As if everything was just my illusion. Thank you. I realized that my action was too strange and quickly said thanks. And Alex's roommate came over, put his arm on Alex's shoulder, and winked at me. Little junior sister. You don't know. Our Alex has been paying attention to you for a long time. Alex nudged back with his elbow, signaling him not to talk nonsense. Then he smiled at me rather embarrassed. Lie. My friend always loves to joke. Don't take it seriously. Were you scared by that ball just now? Otherwise, I'll add you on WeChat. If you feel unwell at any time, you can find me at any time. He shyly scratched his head and asked for my opinion. In my previous life, Alex was one grade above me. We had a very good relationship. He was very gentle and careful and could tolerate all my little emotions. I have to say that I really liked him very much at that time. So much so that later when Luna tricked me out with Alex, I never doubted. But clearly knowing that it had nothing to do with him, and it was Luna's fault. In the face of Alex, there was a somewhat indescribable strangeness in my heart. When I saw him, I would involuntarily think of the bad experiences before my death. But I still added his WeChat. I could even guess the content of his next message. From this day on, rumors about us spread on campus, saying that Alex fell in love with me at first sight, and we were about to have a happy event. And he could always appear in front of me, just at the right time. Classmate Taria. What a coincidence. You also come to the library to study by yourself. Do you mind if I sit next to you? Classmate Taria. It's so late. Let me walk you back to the dormitory. Classmate Taria. You also come to the cafeteria. Do you mind eating together? Classmate Taria. You also chose this course. We are really destined. Even the way of appearing was exactly the same as in the previous life. For a moment, I even suspected that Alex had also come back. After testing several times, I confirmed that he had no memory of the previous life. Before I could think more, Luna finally returned to school, with a face that was 8 points similar to my mom's. She was completely renewed. Moreover, she returned to school in my dad's Rolls-Royce. It also caused quite a stir. Someone took a photo and posted it on the forum. Everyone was discussing and guessing which rich family's daughter she was. 7 when I was swiping the post. I was just on my way back to the dormitory. If I'm not mistaken, there are only 5 luxury cars like that in the whole country. Miss is really something. How could she forget this old servant? Oh, I really want to fight with these rich people. A rich young lady who suddenly appeared. She is so beautiful. Sure enough, the watershed of life is amniotic fluid. I don't know which department's junior is. When I returned to the dormitory, Luna seemed to have been waiting for me for a long time. When she saw me coming back, she raised a proud smile. There were several new bags placed beside her. Arya family. You are back? She got up to welcome me and shyly extended her hand to me with a smile. Luna, what are you doing by having plastic surgery to look like my mom? Was it my dad's driver who sent you back? I deliberately stood at the door and shouted loudly. Luna didn't expect me to say it so blatantly. She gave me a disgusted look. and I successfully attracted people from the next dormitory. I regarded you as a friend. But you hooked up with my dad? My eyes were red. And even my hands were trembling. There was a gasp of surprise all around. They were all eyes looking at gossip. Luna wanted to hint at me to close the door and talk. Arya family. You misunderstood. I can explain. She approached me and warned me in a voice only I could hear. Arya. I am going to marry your dad in the future. You'd better not offend me here. It was so funny. She wouldn't think I would be afraid. Would she? Even if she really married my dad. I wouldn't be afraid. Before Grandpop passed away. He knew that my dad was unreliable. So he gave me the company shares at home early. As soon as I graduate, I will be the person in power. But looking at the face that looked like my mom's, I still couldn't help but get angry. Luna, you still want to marry my dad? I screamed as if I was extremely sad. There was a lot of acting. But naturally someone would believe it. Damn. We thought it was some rich young lady. So it's Luna? She is so disgusting. She had plastic surgery to look like Arya family's mom and seduced her dad. Luna must be crazy for money. Her dad is in his 40s. People regarded you as a friend. But you want to be someone's stepmother. You are so shameless. One person after another. Even with Luna's thick skin. She couldn't stand being talked about. She glared at me and covered her face and ran out of the dormitory. After she left, everyone comforted me a few words. They also expressed that they looked down on people like Luna, and that everyone would definitely stand by me. I expressed my thanks and gave everyone a small gift. Now, the public opinion was completely on my side. In my previous life, I also had an argument with Luna, but at that time, she was more popular than me. Under the banner of true love being innocent. She didn't receive any rumors at school. But I didn't expect. Luna left not long ago. Soon I received a message from my dad. He asked me to apologize to Luna. Otherwise, he would freeze all the bank cards under my name. Arya family. Don't you miss your mom? Dad finally met someone so similar to her. Don't be unreasonable anymore. So disgusting and so disappointing. In my memory, Mom never smiled at him. There is a basement at home. As long as Mom is disobedient, she will be locked up there. When I was a child, the nanny at home didn't allow me to approach. I would always hear women's low screams in the middle of the night. Then the next day, there would be many bruises on Mom's body. They always thought I was still young and didn't remember anything. But they were wrong. I remember my mom's life of wanting to escape but being tied up and threatened. I remember the wounds on my mom's body that would never heal. I remember her telling me to escape from this devil's lair. Okay, Dad. I will apologize to her. Atai obediently agreed. A female voice came from the other end of the phone. Arya family. Why are you doing this? Through the screen, I could imagine her expression at this moment. It should be very proud and complacent. Thinking that she is about to marry into a wealthy family. Right? Without the anger and jumping that Luna imagined. My tone was as calm as water. There was even a bit of a smile. Well, Luna, you are right. We will be a family in the future. I apologize to you. I was wrong in the afternoon. Don't run away. It was Luna's turn to be stunned. She never thought that I would apologize so readily. Luna seemed to want to say something else. The phone seemed to be dropped on the ground. Then there were intermittent panting sounds. I endured my disgust and hung up the phone. I could guess what they were doing with my toes. Luna returned to school a week later. In October, Zhongchang was still very hot. Everyone was wearing short sleeves. But Luna wished she could wrap herself up tightly. When I saw her, I was greatly shocked. The dark circles almost reached the corners of her mouth. The whole person had no vitality at all. Even when walking, she was limping. And my dad, following behind her, seemed to be looking at a perfect work. Dad. I hid the surprise in my heart, and played the role of a good daughter honestly. He just glanced at me casually and stared at Luna firmly. Luna was numbly packing her luggage. During this period, she looked at me several times as if she wanted to say something but stopped. I will arrange for Luna to drop out of school. She doesn't need to go to school anymore. Come home for a meal on the weekend. Luna was held in his arms, and her expression couldn't be seen. Okay, Dad. I watched them leave all the way. After they left, I found a covered note on Luna's desk. It read help. TSK. Already regretting it? Just now I saw that Luna was covered with wounds and red marks. Exactly the same as the wounds on my mom when she was alive. I crumpled the note into a ball and casually threw it in the trash. It's impossible to save her. Isn't this what she asked for? The phone rang just in time. It was Alex asking me to go to the library. During this time, I tested him several times and didn't find any abnormalities at all. Gradually, my guard against him also decreased. After all, in our previous life, we had a very good relationship. I casually got dressed and went to the appointment. Arya family. Here. Alex waved at me in the corner and whispered my name. When I walked over, I saw that on the table were my favorite milk tea and small cake. It could be seen that Alex was attentive. My heart softened and I sat beside him. Have you been waiting for a long time? Alex smiled doubtingly. No. I'm happy to wait for you no matter how long. And I just arrived not long ago. Luna just went back to the dormitory to pack her luggage. That's why I was delayed. I explained to him. She's not with your dad. Alex's words stopped halfway, and he awkwardly changed his words. I didn't mean that. It's just the rumors in the school recently. My heart sank. The rumors about Luna and my dad were flying all over the school. There were all kinds of nasty things being said. It was normal for Alex to say such things. But I don't know why. Hearing Alex's explanation suddenly felt very interesting. I remembered that I still have something to do. I'll leave first. Without waiting for Alex's reaction, I picked up my bag and left. After I walked far away, Alex didn't chase after me. Instead, he sent me more than a dozen messages to apologize. Arya family. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said such words. I didn't mean it. I always heard others talking about Luna, so I subconsciously said that. I'm sorry. I apologize to you. I took a look and turned on Do Not Disturb. When it was the weekend and I went home, Luna lived in the room that my mom used to live in. Originally, she was only 8 points similar to my mom. Now she can almost be said to be exactly the same, except for the hatred in her eyes when looking at me. When eating, Luna would carefully look at my dad with every bite of food, as if afraid of doing something wrong. This was at home, so Luna didn't wrap herself up tightly. Those wounds on her body were clearly visible, large and small whip marks and bruises. She cowered and leaned beside my dad, completely unlike her previous arrogance. Presumably she regrets it so much now. Right? Wealth and honor are not so easy to climb. If I could choose, I would rather live with my mom in an ordinary family. At the dinner table, my dad said that he wanted to marry Luna and asked for my opinion. Of course I supported it with both hands and feet. Luna was always looking for an opportunity to be alone with me. When my dad temporarily received a company call, she finally found the opportunity and blocked me on the stairs. Arya, are you very proud to see me like this? She suppressed her voice, afraid of being heard by a third person. Her tone was full of hatred. Didn't you insist on marrying my dad? Shouldn't you be the proud one? I spread out my hands, quite helpless. In my previous life, I tried every means to stop it, but ended up with a tragic death. Now, I kindly fulfilled her wish. But she still blamed me. Do you really think I don't know that there is your influence in this? Luna became smarter and quickly found out what I had done. It was you who hinted to me that I looked like your mom, and you kept showing off your wealth in front of me, arousing the desire in my heart, and leading me step by step into your trap. Luna figured everything out. The veins on her forehead kept bulging. What did I do to offend you? Why are you treating me like this? 10 in her eyes. I was the source of all her miseries. But what did I do? I just told a few truths. And I am really rich. Did I force you to have plastic surgery? Or did I ask you to seduce my dad? Luna. You really opened my eyes. TSK TSK, SK, TSK TSK. This degree of shamelessness. She turned pale when I said that. And her chest kept heaving. I patted her on the shoulder and smiled. Didn't you get what you wanted? Little mom? For the last sentence. I held back my laughter. Luna still wanted to say something. But unfortunately my dad came back. With just one look from my dad. No matter how much she wanted to say. She had to immediately follow my dad back to the bedroom. This time, I was specially asked to come back. In addition to notifying me about his marriage, there was another thing. In the study, my dad took out a share transfer agreement. Arya family, your grandpa was confused when he was sick and gave the company shares to you. But you are a girl. How can you be worthy of taking over the company? Sign this agreement. Dad will support you for a lifetime. I didn't move and glanced at the agreement. I won't sign. Bang, an ashtray fell at my feet. However, if I hadn't dodged in time, at this moment it would have hit my forehead. You actually dodged. My dad kicked over the chair with a bang, and rushed forward to choke my neck. Raising his fist, he was about to hit me. In an instant, I suddenly remembered those long-buried memories. When I was 8 years old, I didn't listen to the nanny and secretly went to the basement. I found that my mom was locked up inside. But they clearly told me that mom had gone on a trip. Even though I was still young, I knew I had been deceived. I was about to leave with my mom when I was run into by my dad. Without saying a word, he took out the belt from his waist and hit me. If it weren't for my mom protecting me, I might have been beaten to death at that time. After that, I got sick and was sick for a long time. My head was dizzy. After I recovered from my illness, I only knew that my mom had fallen ill and passed away. From then on, I began to be careful in this family. I learned all kinds of knowledge and won championships in every competition just to let Grandpa see my ability. Later, I lived up to expectations and successfully got the company's shares. But Grandpa didn't completely trust me. I had to wait until after I graduated from college to be qualified to take over the company. And now, the person in power is still my dad. He wouldn't be willing to give the company to me. I always knew that. 11 before. I always obeyed my dad unconditionally. Being refused by me. Of course he was angry. Dad, the transfer agreement is useless. The shares are not in my hands yet. I flushed red and squeezed out a few words from my throat. He stared at me suspiciously. The strength in his hand loose and a bit in motion for me to continue. Grandpa said that the shares will take effect after I graduate. During this period, I don't have any decision-making power. Even if Dad doesn't say anything, I will give it to you after I graduate. I said very sincerely. I even took out the agreement transfer document that I had prepared long ago from my phone. Only then did he let go of me and release me. And he returned to that gentle and refined appearance. Arya family. You are really Dad's good daughter. I coughed a few times and remained silent. When he beckoned and let me leave, I dared to leave. As soon as I came out of the study, Luna was dragged into the basement by my dad. In the silent air in the middle of the night, there were screams one after another. I turned on the mobile phone monitoring. That was installed by me secretly a few years ago. Now it comes in handy. In the monitoring, Luna knelt in front of my dad. Her limbs were locked by iron chains, and she was only wrapped in a faintly visible cloth. My dad held a candle in one hand. As he bent his hand, the scalding candle wax dripped on Luna's back. The louder she screamed, the more excited my dad became. After watching for a while, it caused physiological nausea in me. I slept very restlessly this night. I dreamed of my mom and then dreamed of myself in my previous life. I returned to school on Sunday. Before leaving, Luna begged me to save her. Arya family. Save me. Take me away. I swear I will never seduce your dad again. If I stay here, I will really die. I was wrong. I was really wrong. She rolled up her sleeves and showed me the wounds on her body, trying to get my sympathy. Now she seemed to be really scared, and no longer wanted any wealth and honor. Dad. I didn't answer her. I shouted at her back. Luna's face changed drastically, and turned as white as paper in an instant. Trembling all over. Luna. Do you want to run? My dad stood behind her and looked down at her. No, Luna's words were stuck in her throat, and she was dragged back alive. I didn't interfere. This was her own fault. 12. I didn't go back to school immediately. Instead, I contacted an alumnus of our school. She is quite famous on the internet and can be considered a 10 million follower blogger. Vicky sat opposite me. Her tone was not very friendly. Oh, isn't this our Miss Arya? What are you asking me out for? I was used to her sarcasm. I sighed. Cousin. I have something serious to ask you this time. I took out a USB flash drive from my bag and handed it over. She didn't take it. Instead, she looked at me appraisingly. Vicky is my uncle's daughter. After my mom passed away, my uncle originally wanted to take me back, but I refused. Later, my uncle's family cut off contact with me, but I know that he has always wanted to avenge Mom. This is the evidence of that man's crime. I added. Vicky was a little loosened. She took the USB flash drive and sneered. Why? Are you willing to give up your life as a rich young lady? She didn't know that the reason I didn't leave back then was for today. In my previous life. If it weren't for my stupidity in believing the wrong person and not having a chance to avenge my mom before I died. I have been waiting for this day. I said. I asked Vicky to post the video online. That night, a video of a cry for help and beating went viral on the hot search. At this moment, my dad's phone was almost blown up by people from the company. But he still didn't answer. This is also partly due to Luna. I asked her to find a way to get rid of the nanny at home and trap my dad. This was her only chance to get rid of my dad. By the time my dad realized it, it must be too late. I looked at the monitoring again and called 110. I want to report to the police. There is illegal detention. When the police rushed into the villa at home, my dad was just beating Luna. She was lying on the ground dying. My dad was finally arrested. In addition to Luna. And those girls who had been victimized by him also provided evidence to the police station one after another. The company's stock market plummeted overnight. Everyone was in panic and on guard. My dad's secretary found me and hoped that I could stand up and protect my dad and the company. He said that this was also my grandpa's request. If my dad had an accident, I would not be qualified to inherit the company. But who told you that I want to inherit the company? I flatly refused the request made by my dad's secretary. He was stunned on the spot. Soon he figured everything out. Miss, why are you doing this? That's your dad. If he falls, do you think you will still have a rich and superior life? But I never said that this is the life I want. What I want is just to avenge my mom and myself. In the end, the Arya family still fell. All the assets under my dad's name were frozen. The company was investigated by the tax bureau on suspicion of tax evasion. There was a gap of 10 billion. I directly declared the company bankrupt and handed over all the property under my dad's name. From a high princess, I became a person that everyone avoided. 13. I chose a sunny day to visit my dad. Through the window, he roared and shouted, saying that I am an ungrateful wolf and a beast. He said don't wait for him to get out. He will kill me sooner or later. My good dad, you can't get out. I looked at him coldly. Back then, he forced my mom to marry him by relying on family power. In the end, my mom died of depression. How could I let him go? After dealing with the family affairs, it was already Chinese New Year. The house was deserted. Even the nanny aunt had left. Vicky called me. What are you still doing? Everyone is waiting for you to have New Year's Eve dinner. The cloud in my heart finally dissipated. This was the first warm year I had. After the new year and school started, Alex found me. Arya family, where have you been? I couldn't contact you during this time. I was very worried. Everyone avoided me. But Alex was an exception. There was a hint of worry in his eyes. After seeing me, he breathed a sigh of relief. He asked me to meet outside the alley outside the school at night. He had something to say to me. At night, I came as promised. What was waiting for me was not Alex, but Luna and a group of strange men behind her. At this moment, what's not clear? Her eyes were full of poison. Arya, it's you who made me like this. How could I let you go? I unconsciously tightened my bag. In my previous life, Luna tricked me out under the pretext of Alex. And this time, it was Alex himself who tricked me out. Just when she thought I was panicked and at a loss, I suddenly laughed. So, Luna, what do you want to do? Let these men behind you torture me to death? Do you know that your behavior is a crime? She laughed out loud as if she had heard a big joke. There is no monitoring here. No one knows who invited you out. These people behind me are all hooligans. After you die, give them a sum of money. No one will find them. Go. This woman is at your disposal. I just want one thing. Don't let her die too easily. Luna waved her hand. The wretched eyes of several men behind her fell on me, making people extremely uncomfortable. I was not in a hurry. Who told you that I came alone? Then I shouted to the back. Come out. In Luna's surprised eyes, more than a dozen bodyguards filed in. In no time, everyone including Luna was subdued to the ground. As for Alex, naturally someone will go to find him. Luna was incredulous. She couldn't even figure out why I was prepared. Don't you like Alex? Why? I pinched Luna's chin and looked into her eyes. Let me guess. You and Alex are lovers, right? You have planned everything long ago. You want to use me to get close to my dad and thus cheat my family's property. If you fail, there is still Alex, right? And now you are attacking me because I am of no use anymore, right? Luna's pupils unconsciously enlarged, and the guilt on her face betrayed her thoughts. You. How did you know? I sneered. But I won't give her the answer. After all, I don't believe that the appearance and the way of pursuing me of the same person into lifetimes are exactly the same. The only explanation is that everything is a prearranged script. As for how I confirmed it, it was still that day in the library. What Alex blurted out. There are indeed a lot of rumors in the school, but no one has ever said that Luna is with my dad. How did he know it so accurately? Later, I asked someone to check on him, and learned that he and Luna are actually from the same place in their hometown. Some answers naturally surfaced. Call the police. I left a sentence and turned away. Luna and Alex, as well as those hooligans, were arrested for suspected fraud and attempted murder. As for me, I applied for an exchange and study abroad quota from the school a month ago. I have been waiting for this day for a long time. I have transferred a lot of property in a mess. The money in the bank card is enough for me to live a chic life for most of my life. From the moment I step on the plane, everything will start anew.